where I think it comes in specifically related to money, finances, and taxes is I really see, especially women, try to kind of push the money and finances to the back burner. They try to outsource it. They try to let someone else handle it. They try to defer to someone else, whether that's their husband, their father, their brother, a CPA that they've hired, right? And I think especially if I'm here for women empowerment, right? And to say that, yes, that's so great that you hired a CPA, that you've outsourced this, that you're delegating. However, it is ultimately on you to understand and know and make the decisions, even if you're not making the decisions yourself, but you're making them collaboratively with someone else.
Joining me today is Kimberly Tara, a CPA certified tax coach and powerhouse entrepreneur who helps other profitable women entrepreneurs legally and ethically lower their tax bill and build long-term wealth. She believes making money is only half the battle. Keeping more money is where true financial freedom begins. Too many women entrepreneurs work tirelessly only to hand over massive chunks of their income to the IRS because no one ever taught them a better way. Kimberly is changing that. Through proactive tax strategy and year-round planning, she empowers her clients to keep more money, make smarter financial decisions, and turn their business into a wealth-building machine. Her mission is simple. Success isn't just about numbers, it's about freedom, impact, and living life on your terms. Today is all about how to keep more cash, reduce stress, and scale confidently. So stay tuned. Hey there, it's Michelle, and today Kimberly Tara is joining me. Welcome to the show, Kimberly.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
I'm so excited for this conversation. We've known each other now for 3-4 years. Maybe it's been longer.
Yeah.
Not sure. And what I don't know is the journey that led you from being like the CPA to the go-to guide for women entrepreneurs. So would you be open to sharing your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try and keep it quick. So I was actually a chemical engineering major in college. I don't share that a lot, but that wasn't for me. And 3.5 years in, switched to accounting, sat in a class, and like, in your heart, just like it happened. And I knew that it was for me. So started my career in public accounting, like most CPAs do, right? Because you have to get some requirements for licensing. And I remember as I was sitting there, I come from engineering, right? And that's why this part of the story is so important. And it was still male dominated. Engineering overall is still male dominated, especially chemical, which was my discipline. And so I get to accounting, which I felt like was more like for women, right? Like if you think about it, and I'm looking all around, and the majority of the partners, the majority of the managers, they're still all men. And I'm like, I really thought that this was going to be more women, right? That I was going into a more woman-led field. So come to find out why in public accounting it is so male heavy still is because it's grueling. It's grueling hours. You have no life essentially if you really want to make partner in public accounting. And I was at this crossroads in my life where I wanted to make partner. I'm a high achiever. Somebody had done it in 10 years. And so my thing, I was like, I'm going to do it in 9, right? And I also wanted to have a child by the time I was 30. And so it like dawned on me as I watched this manager pregnant with her second child, FaceTiming her 3-year-old to sleep, that there was no way that I could have both. Like it was this hard moment and this realization in my life where Kimberly's always achieved everything she wants, but there is no way that I can make both of these things happen. And so I didn't do anything immediately, but that was really like that turning point of, okay, public accounting is not for me. So now what? And I'm the child of 2 entrepreneurs. So I knew at some point I would always own my own business. I just didn't know that it would be at 25 and 10 weeks pregnant unknowingly to me. And so that was really what started my journey. I opened my own practice. I kind of made all the wrong mistakes, as I like to say a lot of business owners do. I undercharged, undervalued myself, didn't have any marketing set up. I said yes to everyone and did all of the things because I was trying to replace that paycheck that I was used to. And so over the last decade, I have really refined who we serve, how we serve, the team that I've grown. And it's just incredible. And as a mom of four, as a woman who is, in still a very male dominated field and up against a lot of odds, I'm here to make sure that other women, other moms succeed and they don't let the finances, the taxes, the money things hold them back from reaching all of their goals, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't know that about you. So that's so interesting.
Hmm.
And honestly, like you're right, it is that male dominant. And for me, I prefer working with women. I feel more comfortable
Hmm.
even having some of that those conversations. I feel like I'm being a little
Yep.
less judged. Obviously that could be from childhood trauma or something along the way. However, it's just a more comfortable conversation, and you definitely
It
want to
is.
work with people who you feel comfortable, or as you're
Absolutely.
going through this, especially when you have in the online industry, like you have your ebbs and flows. So
Yes.
I know somebody that works with a male accountant, and he's always like, maybe you should just give this up because this is like they don't understand, and then it makes it feel
Yeah.
like what you're doing or makes you feel so small, and that's what we want to
Yep.
get around, right? Somebody who
Yep.
understands the industry or just business in general, and
Yes.
like is saying, okay, what can we do now? More of like, let's help you get through this. Okay, now we're
Yeah.
identifying your like lower months. So how can we, overcompensate? Not
Yeah, and like
trying
you
to push.
said, just being uplifting, right? Like I feel like we are like cheering on like our clients. Like sometimes I feel like we are our clients' biggest cheerleaders. They're hearing from their husbands or their parents or whatever it is, like, you can't do this, or is this really worth it? Or, when is it going to happen? Whereas we're here cheering them on. And I think that that's so important, just like you said, especially that level of comfortability that you have. Money is a hard conversation already for most people out there. And so to have to do that with a person that you don't trust or doesn't make you feel safe and supported, it just makes it even harder.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know that you talk a lot about elevating the CEO, right? So what does that
Hmm.
actually
Yep.
look like when it comes to money systems, taxes, profit sharing, like those types of things?
Yeah. So, and I'm very transparent with my clients whenever I'm on podcasts like this about my own journey. And I think that, you know, I've had this unique opportunity to work with a lot of entrepreneurs and CEOs who are way ahead of me. Typically when you're working with someone, they're not far ahead of you, or they're just far enough ahead of you. Whereas I've been working with 8 figure, 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs since I was making, barely 6 figures. And it just opens your eyes to so many things that you see. And so a lot of this in recent years, I've been having to implement as I elevate myself as CEO and I elevate my team below me. And so where I think it comes in specifically related to money, finances, and taxes is I really see, especially women, try to kind of push the money and finances to the back burner. They try to outsource it. They try to let someone else handle it. They try to defer to someone else, whether that's their husband, their father, their brother, a CPA that they've hired, right? And I think especially if I'm here for women empowerment, right? And to say that, yes, that's so great that you hired a CPA, that you've outsourced this, that you're delegating. However, it is ultimately on you to understand and know and make the decisions, even if you're not making the decisions yourself, but you're making them collaboratively with someone else. What I want to stop seeing happen is women CEOs just giving this power away and saying, I'm not good with numbers. I don't understand money. I'm not good at math, right? And just giving this away instead of saying, I need to elevate myself as a CEO. This is a critical component of being a successful CEO and having a successful, sustainable business. And saying, this is something that I just have to learn. And I need to find the right person who's going to make sure that I learn correctly, and they're really there to support me.
Yeah, I love that. It's so funny that you say that because whenever well, I shouldn't say every time, but most of the time I meet with people and I'm like, when they're asking me, like, hey, what's going wrong with my funnel? Why aren't I able to
Okay.
scale it? And I'm like, all right, well, tell me what the numbers are. And they're like, I don't even know. It's almost like I
Mhm.
know it's bad and I don't want to look at it, right? It's like, so I love that what you're saying is because you do have to look at your numbers if you want to
Yep.
just, and it's not making the numbers mean anything. It's just
No.
here's where it's at. And then once you know, then you know what to do about it, right? So
Absolutely. It's the same thing whether you're looking at marketing data or
yes,
financial data or client data, right? Like they all serve a purpose. And it's just, I like to say the numbers don't lie,
right.
right? Numbers don't lie. And, data helps you make decisions. And so that's why we need it. That's why we need it to be up to date. We need it to be accurate, right? All those things that we talk about, that comes more from the bookkeeping side than the tax side, but it is so so important to know, and I'm on the opposite, and I had to work on knowing my marketing numbers, right, and my funnel numbers and things like that, because those are the things I wasn't tracking because I'm good at the money and the finances. I had to learn the marketing and the marketing metrics and how to use my marketing data to make good decisions.
So let's stay on the track of the elevating of the CEO because I really like this
Okay.
conversation because Um, well, first of all, let's just be clear that CEO doesn't necessarily mean like you have like a C-suite and you are now the CEO out of the business. We're talking about just running
Correct.
your business. Okay. So don't, if you're
Yes.
listening, don't declassify yourself or I don't fall in this category. Yes, you do. You are the business owner. You are running your business. Let's just come with that hat on. I know for me that I've sat in a lot of rooms with group coaching programs, masterminds, and things like that, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you can write that. That's a write off. You could take this trip and write that off. Oh, you can have this, right? The shoes, the clothes you wear for photo shoots, like all these things come up. And then it's like, well, wait, can I write it? Can I not write it? Or you think, oh, well, so
Yep.
and so said this and I must do it. So can we just talk about that for a second?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Let's talk about that. Also, before I talk about that, something that you said, Michelle, that made me think I needed to say this is, so you're talking about like you are the CEO, but you don't have to have this whole C-suite, right? You could be a solopreneur. When I'm talking about taxes and tax strategy, you probably don't have to be making as much money as you think you do. I like one myth that I typically hear is like, oh, I don't have $1 million business or I'm not making millions, so tax strategy isn't for me. We actually start working with clients once they become profitable, because once you become profitable, meaning the revenue that you're bringing in is more than the expenses that you have, so you have money left over, net income. Now you have to pay taxes on that,
Mhm.
right? The minute you have profit, you have to pay taxes. And so obviously tax strategy looks different, and what you write off and what you do is going to look different based on having $20,000 of taxable income versus $200,000 of taxable income. But don't think that this conversation doesn't apply to you because you don't have a C-suite or you don't have 10 employees or you're not making millions of dollars. I promise if you have net income and you're profitable, there's something that you're going to take away from what I'm about to say when it comes to write-offs and strategies, because that's so important. Yes. Okay. So I love that you asked. Nobody has actually ever like brought this point up on any interviews I've ever done. And I think it's so smart because you're right. You hear it from your fellow business owners. Maybe you see a random post on Instagram and you're like, well, I can do that. And so here's the biggest caution that I just want you to think about when you're hearing things in these rooms, on podcasts, on social media is maybe they're right, but I need to talk to my professional. It's on me as the taxpayer who's signing my return to make sure that I'm following the rules and the IRS tax code. So that's the first thing is just because they're doing it does not mean that it's correct. It doesn't mean that it's an appropriate strategy. It doesn't mean that they're implementing it correctly. I've seen so many times, right, where the strategy is good, but no one gave them the support to say, but this is how you do it properly to make sure that you're following the IRS's rules, because some of the IRS rules are really specific. And then the third thing that I want you to remember, so the first thing is maybe that's actually not an appropriate strategy, period. The second thing I want you to remember is that it could be a good strategy, but if it's not implemented properly, you're going to run into some problems with the IRS. And the third thing that I want you to remember is that everyone's business is different. And even though, and we know this, right, inherently, we know that all of our businesses are different, even though they sound the same. It's like we do the same thing. It sounds like our friends sitting next to us because maybe we're at a conference for marketers or online service providers. So we're like, we all do the same thing. but you truly don't. You don't know that your business, top to bottom, is exactly the same as theirs. And you don't know that your life, your personal life, is the same as theirs. And so just because it's something that they can do in their business, that their professional has given them permission to do or worked with them to do, does not mean that it applies to your business.
That's incredible advice. Like, I wish I would have had that from before, because I was guilty of, and I learned my lesson quickly, because what happens is they're like, for example, oh yeah, you can buy, like, you can write off, let's say, whatever you're wearing for your brand shoot. So then what happens?
Hmm.
I mean, I didn't go crazy overboard, because that's not the type of person I am. However, some other people at that table was like, okay, well, I'm buying designer this, and then thinking they
Yep.
were right, and then they're like, womp womp, they couldn't, right? So that's really
Yep.
good. So what are a few maybe tax strategies that, like, or money moves, I should say, that online business owners
Okay.
overlook but can literally save them thousands?
Yeah. So, the first thing, and I know it's going to be so, so simple, but again, going back to actually looking at your numbers and having some form of structured bookkeeping in place. I'm not saying you have to have a bookkeeper. I'm not saying you have to go pay for QuickBooks Online. What I am saying is that you have to look at the numbers, and you can't wait until February of next year when it's tax time to say, oh, I need to get all my numbers together for my tax guy,
Mhm.
right? We need to put a kibosh on that. You need to know at a minimum, month in and months out, what is coming in, the money coming in, your revenue, and the expenses going out. And that is the first thing that is going to save you so much money, because one, now you can make better financial decisions. Forget taxes. It's going to make you money because you have the data that Michelle and I were talking about before to actually make good decisions and to know, where am I profitable? Where am I not profitable? What offer is bringing in the most money? What offer is costing me the most to continue to have, right? So that for me, Michelle, is always number one, is even if you're doing the bookkeeping and you're doing it in an Excel spreadsheet, that you are doing it consistently, which is to me a minimum of monthly, and you're actually making sure that all of the numbers are in there. That kind of leads to my second one. When you're doing that, and when you make sure, so that's my first, is bookkeeping. My second thing is making sure that you're not commingling your business and your personal expenses. And there's two reasons for this. One is because the IRS doesn't really like it. The second is because, and I've been guilty of this in the past, like, I have a Target Red Card, right? And so if I use my Target Red Card, I get a 5% discount on my purchase at Target. So I want to use my Target Red Card, which is in my personal name, because I want my 5% discount. But now I have to remember to go submit that Target receipt for reimbursement for my business to pay me back, right? And so you can see how putting expenses on different cards and commingling, you will miss expenses that are personal that really belong to your business. And so again, you're missing out on a deduction or a write-off that you could have on your business's taxes because it wasn't in the right spot for you to account for it.
Mhm.
And then the longer you go, right? If you wait longer and longer to put your finances together, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but like I already can't remember last month essentially. So I have no idea if we get to February and my tax person, which is me, is asking me what happened last February. Girl, I have no idea. Like I just don't know. And so that's the second thing, is I want you to have one checking account, one savings account, and one credit card. If you do credit cards, I believe in good debt. I'm a credit card points lover. And so yeah, I have two or three business credit cards, but everything is in my business. If it's on that card, it's for business. If it's not on that card, it's not for business, because I don't want you missing out on write-offs that legitimately should be on your tax return. So bookkeeping, not commingling so that you're not missing out on expenses. Getting into the more specific tax write-offs, something that I see missed a lot is phone usage, because your cell phone is probably in your personal name. And so you forget that, I mean, 85% of my phone is used for business. I don't really do a lot of personal calls and things like that. So I need my business to reimburse me for that. Now, depending on how your business files taxes, the semantics of that, the logistics are going to look a little different, but you should absolutely, I don't know anybody who doesn't use their phone for their business.
Mhm.
The other things that I see are home office is often missed, especially if you elect to file your taxes as an S Corp. It's super easy to claim the home office deduction when you're a sole proprietor and you just file your business's tax return with your individual tax return. But once you elect to file taxes as an S Corp, it gets a little bit trickier. And I think that if you're self preparing your taxes, you don't know because you don't know the intricacies of the tax code. And I think even for a lot of just tax preparers, they don't understand how you can make a couple of shifts with your accountable plan to actually have a home office deduction on there still. Um, that's another thing that I see missed, Michelle, is not having what we call an accountable plan. And by we, I mean the IRS when you do elect to file taxes as an S Corp. And even an S Corp is a really great way to save on taxes. My caveat there is that I see it done too soon and it actually costs you money. So that's I'm super transparent and honest. I think I've said that a couple of times, but I just like I'm here for it and I don't work with people who aren't also transparent and honest. But if your business doesn't have enough net income to justify electing to file taxes as an S corp to save money, it's actually costing you more in administrative costs, in payroll costs, in tax prep costs. And so that's money that you're throwing out the door, right? Because you see the tax savings, but you're forgetting that it's going to cost you more. And so I don't want to see that happen to you. Mileage for vehicles is something that I often see as a write off that's missed. Um, Even if you're an online business, you still probably like today I've got to go to UPS, I've got to mail a check, right? That's a business expense. That is something that I have to do for my business. And so you would be surprised how much just little things like that add up over time. Something else is charitable contributions. So if you donate to a charity, maybe you sponsor something. A lot of times I see like a sponsorship letter, like maybe like a kids' little league theme or something like that. Um, and they'll give you their receipt that says, hey, this might be tax deductible, right? And they mean for charity purposes. And what I would encourage you to do as a business owner is to say, how can this be a marketing expense? Can they hang a sign? Can they put our logo on the Little League t-shirts, right? What can you do for this to be a marketing expense to get your name out there instead of it being a charity, a charitable donation? Because charitable donations just aren't going to be as beneficial to you as a marketing expense is. And that's a missed one that I see a lot.
My God.
All right, Michelle, should I
Good.
keep going
Oh my
or do
gosh.
we have
I
that's
couldn't.
it's like a lot,
Well,
but I can
I
keep
know,
going.
and I'm actually loving it all. And it's funny. So, like, when you talked about the S corp, when I was sitting here thinking about like the rumor at the table and in these rooms where they're like, oh, in order to do S corp, you have to be making so much money, like revenue, and you said
Yep,
specifically your net income profit,
yep,
right? So there
yep.
is another myth that is kind of going around that if you're making that, I mean, I guess it's assumed that, and what I have learned in my seat is that you shouldn't assume just because your revenue is this that you are
Exactly.
actually profitable. Because I know
Uh-huh.
several seven-figure
Oh,
businesses that are.
I have seen it with my own eyes.
Yes.
People telling you on Instagram that they're a seven-figure business owner or they made six figures in one launch and they are not telling you the truth about how much they spent to make that happen and that they are not taking a paycheck home.
Yes. And that's the thing is the revenue, I mean, they might be honest, like this is the revenue they've earned. However, what I like to focus more is on the profitability, right? Because
Yep,
you can
yep,
work your tail off to get this revenue in. However, we're in this to make money for ourselves to fund the life
yep,
that we want, of freedom and all that
correct.
cliche that we see. So that was very interesting that you said that, because I thought that it was this, and I do I mean, I think that's a lot, and I think the key to this whole conversation is you don't know what you don't know. So how can
Hmm.
you present the question to your accountant and or your CPA and say,
Yep.
"Hey, when you see this, what are my benefits? Or, where can I have some tax savings? What can I be putting into place? And don't wait to the end. Like, figure it out during the so
Yes.
it doesn't like, oh, you thought you were doing it right and then you end up not, and now you can't take it. I don't even know if that's a thing, but I would assume so if you do.
Could you say that a little bit louder for the people in the back, Michelle, about not waiting until the end of the year?
Well, I'm very big on, like, I'm a planner. I'm like that type A type of person.
Yes.
However, it's
Yes.
like my kids when they go to clean their room. It's like when it's finally time, like, clean your room, they're like, oh my God, it's going to take me hours. I'm like, that's because you
Right.
did a little every day. It wouldn't be so over. So I picture that as the same thing because
Yes.
with
Or like,
the
why are you
expenses.
yelling at me?
Exactly.
Because I've asked you nicely 10 times and no, like it was like I didn't exist. So yes, I'm yelling now because I'm frustrated because you haven't done what I asked you to do nicely.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So funny. So it's like, why put that extra stress on ourselves? You know,
Hmm.
actually, because we have here we in Fernandez HQ, we were doing finance Fridays, right? And it was like
Yep.
we kind of look just personally, we did my husband and I would do it together, like what's going on. And then what I found was there were so many little expenses on the debit card that it was taking me
Yep.
forever on Fridays alone. That was supposed to be like a 20,
Okay.
30 minute check-in. So then what I did is at the end of every day, I would look at the day before just to see, and it was more
Okay.
manageable for me because then what happened was
Yep.
I ended up not doing finance Fridays because I'm like, this is taking me too long. It's, all these, it was like, da, 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 like three.
You didn't want to sit there. Like, I'm like, oh, so what? Like, it takes an hour? Like, that's not bad, right? But that's like me trying to do a marketing block for 3 hours. I can't
Exactly.
do a marketing block for 3 hours. And so I think that goes back to exactly what you were saying about being in the room and being around people, which I want to say that, like, I think being in the room is great, but I think you should take what other people say with a grain of salt because it's going to look different for everyone. And so I think that if daily, I couldn't imagine that. Like, I do a quick like app check and look at my bank accounts in the morning, but like it's all in my head. Just like how marketing is in your head,
Hmm.
my money is in my head. There's, like my team who helps me, they'll be like, "How did you know that?" And I'm like, it's I just know it, right?" And so find the rhythm that works for you, whether that's daily, weekly, monthly. I would just encourage anyone to not go beyond monthly, right?
Right.
Because then it's going to feel very overwhelming. And you're right. That is what I find time and time again, that especially women, it's like we all have a very long to-do list, and we all have those things that just like every day they keep going to the bottom of the to-do list.
Yeah.
For me, I'll be honest, it's marketing. But for most of the clients that we work with, especially a lot of creatives, it is the business, the finance, the money side, the tax side of things. And it just compounds and compounds and compounds. And then you feel like, okay, if I go tell anybody how far behind on filing my taxes I am, they're going to judge me. If I tell someone that I have no idea how much income I have, they're going to judge me, right? And so, I think that that's a very important topic to have as well, is that if you find the right professional to work with, I promise you they're not judging you. And I promise you, you are not the worst that we've seen, right? Like I've had to go back 16 years for someone. That's 1 6, like 16 years, longer than I have been a professional in this industry, that I had to go back and help someone file taxes, get things reconciled, right? And so it's probably not as bad as you think. If you are feeling judged, I think that just means it's not the right fit for you. But it is a problem that just compounds over time. It kind of gets away from you. Time gets away from us, right, when we're doing other things. But unfortunately, taxes are something that have a way. I kind of think of the Wedding Crashers movie where Fisher's character is like, "I'd find you," and that is how the IRS is. Like, they will find you. They will find you. I feel like we digress there, Michelle. What was
No,
the
actually,
original
I think
question?
that we were right on point because my next question was going to be about like the money mindset and that. And I think that that's
Yeah.
where it comes to, I honestly feel, and I don't know if you agree with me, is that there's no shame in everything. It's like, that statement, like there's no better time to start than now. Like you're going to kick
Mhm.
yourself and whatever. It's like, today, what is, one thing that you can do today, or mark it on your calendar before the end of the year to like take
Yep.
Tori, and if it's too much for somebody to sit down like it was for me on Fridays, it's like, okay, how can I maybe say, all right, in a week I'm gonna get through XYZ, and then it doesn't seem
Yep.
so piling on. And then I know for me, it's like I don't make anything mean anything. It
Hmm.
is. And the cool thing is that you are taking the right steps, the right actions to improve it, no matter where you are right now, even if it's just okay. And I will say that in marketing side, I'm not going to say in the tax side. However, in marketing, a lot of times people don't realize how well they are doing, but they think
Hmm.
they should be doing better because they're
Yep.
assuming, because this person, this guru, whatever, says they're this, they think they should be there. But I'm like, you're doing actually very well. And now, how
Yes.
might we optimize it, right? How can we make tiny
Yep.
shifts to get
Yep.
more massive results, right? Do you agree with me
Yeah.
on that?
Well, I mean, they say comparison is the thief of
Yes.
joy, right? And as a high achiever, I can be very guilty of that, right? But something that I've learned, Michelle, especially because I have this unique perspective of seeing like the actual numbers, like people are not lying to me. Like there's no marketing going out on Instagram. Like I'm looking at your financials that you are going to file with the IRS. And something that I've learned is a lot, not all, but many of those business owners making really large revenue claims, again, they don't have a lot left over. And I don't know about you, but I would rather have a $500,000 business with a 40% profit margin, right? Because that means I get $200,000 at the end of the year versus $1 million business with a 5% profit margin, because that means I'm only getting $50,000 at the end of the year, probably with a lot more headaches and a lot more hustle and a lot more figuring stuff out, right? So definitely think about, what makes sense for you amongst all things. And something else that I thought of, Michelle, when you were talking is, you know, we do, especially as women, tend to focus on the bad things. We don't acknowledge and appreciate and like praise ourselves for the things that go well. We focus on the bad things. So like I know, like, to relate it back to marketing, something for me is like, you look at the unsubscribes and you're like, somebody unsubscribed. Who was it? Instead of like, well, but four people subscribed. And so something that I've learned over, I was very late to the game with an email list. We didn't do a lot of marketing in the beginning. We were just referral based, and we are still very heavily referral based. So I don't have a huge email list, but what I say is like, oh, that's so great that this was not a fit for them, and now I don't have to pay for them. And I'm like, bye. Right? Like, and I've gone and I've unsubscribed people. I'm like, this person, I'm not sure how they got on our list, but they are
Sometimes it's
not a
starting
good fit
you.
for us, right? Bless and release.
Yeah.
And so, but like, that is a hard mindset shift as a CEO, but you have to figure out how to get there with marketing, with money, with taxes, with unhappy clients, with growth, right? Like, if you really want to grow, if you really want, and like, I focus on the fact that like I don't like marketing. I really truly don't. And I'm so grateful that the bulk of my business does not come from that. However, for the last year and a half, have been working on shifting that and saying, marketing isn't my favorite, but I'm learning it. And it's because I want to make a bigger impact. I want to be able to reach more women and help more women and let them know that my team and I exist. And it doesn't have to be that horrible experience that they're used to, or that there is somebody who's going to take the time to educate them and help them implement the strategies, right? And so figure out, like, not it doesn't even have to be your why, because I feel like there's so many different things tied to my why, but knowing that the more I put myself out there, the more visibility I have, the more women we can impact. And I didn't even know that that would then allow me to hire more women out of public accounting. And my team tells me all the time, they're like, thank you so much for like just the life that you have given us because of the culture of our firm and what we get to do, right? And so I think if you can approach it like that and think about the finances and the taxes are such a big component of what's going to allow your business to grow and sustain and scale and really fuel your life. If you look at it from that perspective, hopefully that helps you from continually pushing it down to the bottom of the list over and over again.
That is so, so good. So good. I want to just, before we kind of wrap up, I want to talk about, you talked about the cost of a product. And I think that a lot of people don't
Mhm.
realize when they should let something go, right? Meaning a product or a service that they have, because they're like,
Yep.
either I've had this so long, or I have people in there, and maybe it's not a lot of people, or maybe like you were saying, bless and release type of people. Um,
Yep.
can you talk about what that means exactly so people can maybe, as we're approaching, no matter what time? And this is the cool thing. A lot of people are like, let me wait to the end of the year and do this whole thing.
Yeah.
I personally like to revisit all the things at least once a quarter just to say, hey, am I
Yes.
still on track with my goals? Is this really what I want to do? Because just because you set a goal for the year, you can be first quarter in reviewing and saying, oh, I changed my mind. You are allowed to do that. Like a lot of people
Or your life can
do it.
completely change. Like in the
Exactly.
last year, I've had so many life changes from moving from Louisiana to North Carolina. We just moved houses and school districts. Like you don't know what's a whole year down the road from you.
Exactly.
You don't know. You think you know, but you don't actually know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um, so I think that this, Michelle, goes back to how you were talking about like the emotions that come into being a business owner. And it's really, really hard when we have worked so hard and for so long and we feel like we've given like our blood, sweat, and tears to like almost like I know a business is not a baby, but in a sense like it is another extension of you. It is something that the business owners that we work with have truly poured their heart and souls into it. And so I really think that this is actually a harder emotional decision than business and financial decision. And I think depending on what coaches you talk to, who you work with, all of these things, right? Some are like, you have to leave emotion. You have to check emotion at the door. And then you've got others that are like, no, bring the emotion and let it dictate and drive you. And I'm somewhere in the middle of that, right? I will try to listen to my gut. I will try to listen to my heart. At the end of the day, though, I'm going to come back to the numbers. And so if something, that's why I think it's so important on your profit and loss statement, or even if it's not on your profit and loss, again, if it's on an Excel file somewhere, you need to know each offer or each service or each product, however you collect money with. If something has a name and a price different from something else, you need to have a line item for that on Excel so that you know how many people are in there and how much money that offer, product, service is actually bringing in. And then here's where most people stop is they'll maybe have that, but then they're not tracking the cost, the expenses that tie back directly to that. And so, think about if it's a group. Let's go with a coaching group, right? You're like, "Oh, well, there's nothing that they actually like. There's nothing I have to provide to them, right?" Well, but you probably have a Slack. You might have a training portal. You might send them an onboarding gift. It's your time, right? You need to be accounting for all of those costs so that you can make sure that you are charging them enough, or it's something that you really can afford to continue to do. So, I don't want to put a percentage or a number on it, Michelle, because I do think that it's different for every business.
Mhm.
But for me, like I usually, if you're not seeing 10% profit minimum from something, you really need to be evaluating like, does this make sense? Um, does this, do I want to keep doing this in the long term? And you might be like, hell yes, because I love it. It's a passion project and I'm okay with only making 10%. Awesome. Keep doing it. The only other caveat to that is like a loss leader, right? So there might be some products or some things that you offer that intentionally lose money, but you're tracking them on the back end, right? And the upsells and the bumps and how it gets people in. And so I think that yes, I think the key point here, and this is like such like marketing and client fulfillment and money and taxes all coming together. And again, this is why you're the CEO and this is why you call yourself the CEO and you have this education and the professional support is because yes, you need to look at all of those individually and you also need to look at them together in the whole picture because you need to know that, well, this loses me money. However, it's the main driver of the $300,000. This loses me $5,000 every month, but it brings in $50,000 every month. And that's exactly how people are getting from point A to point B. And so I would, so I've had to coach a couple of not even clients, just like women that I'm in groups. Actually, one of the groups that we were in together, Michelle, somebody wanted to do that. They wanted to stop doing something. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't think that's a good idea if that's where your clients are coming from, right? So again, it's looking at them individually and looking at everything as one interconnected system. And that's why having someone like you, Michelle, who can look at the whole funnel, right, and see the whole picture and say, okay, yes, I know on the front end this metric looks bad, but look, once we follow this step to this step to this step, this is where you're winning.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the ways, because a lot of people are like, well, how do we do that? How do I know? And I use Toggle as a time track. And I tell
Uh-huh. Yep.
everybody that comes on my team, like I remember one person I went to hire, she refused because she didn't want to be time tracked. And I'm like, well, I am tracking to see what you're doing, but I'm not a micromanager. However, I do want to know, like, how long does this take? Am I pricing it right? Right? Or how long is this
Yep.
taking? Is this a training opportunity? So I think that this is also something really good to have and I mean I haven't used another system, but in Toggle you could put like the customer and then like the project name. So I literally
Yep.
break down all the things, and that's such a great way for you to say, okay, we had this team member that does this. I pay them so much money an hour, right? It took them 5
Mm-hmm.
hours a month or a week or whatever that looks like.
Yep.
And then it's easier for you to be calculating to see what this cost is. How profitable are you really? Right. And I
Yep.
think that by just having that idea, and that's not something you have to do all the time unless you're adding new
Mm-mm.
features or benefits or bonuses or
We
something.
do it,
Yeah.
we do a 2 week time tracking every
Yeah.
quarter
Yeah.
here at our firm. That's kind of how we do it.
Yeah. And then that's an easier way for you to evaluate that, because a lot of people are like, I don't even know where to start with everything you just said and I want to do
Mm-hmm.
it. So that's one really good way to start. And then obviously, like you were saying, if you send like welcome boxes or, cards or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, then obviously you would get the cost of that. But I think what people mostly miss out on is their time or their team's time that they're putting
Absolutely.
in, you know?
Absolutely.
So that's something really good to be evaluating when you're like, okay, well, where
Mm-hmm.
where am I leaking money? It seems like all this money
Yes.
coming in, but my
It's almost always people
yes,
or subscriptions.
yeah,
People, subscriptions. Go back and check your subscriptions. Do you still use that software? Have they increased the price, right? Like all those things.
yes,
People and subscriptions are always going to be your two biggest leaks.
yes. Oh my gosh, this was so good. Is there anything that we might have missed? I'm sure you're like there's 100, Michelle, that you
I know.
even if it's like one tiny tweak that they can be doing, like just starting today or this week, right? Is there anything that we left out? I think that you kind of hit it with, getting everything down, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna leave.
Yeah. Okay. I've got like my final three things.
Okay.
Okay. So number one is remember that you don't have to be rich to be implementing to take advantage of tax strategies as a business owner so that you can keep more money in your pocket, right? You don't have to be making millions and millions. Number two is the time is now to start looking for someone, right? Like it, it is not like don't think of tax time as strategy time. Like whenever you are listening to this episode, you're like this is your wake up call to be like, all right, I got to figure something else, figure something out now. Don't wait, don't put it off. Now is the time. I don't care when you're listening to this episode. And then the third thing is that this is really something that I don't believe that you can pass off to someone else. This is something that, to a certain extent, you have to own and understand. I'm not saying you have to be the bookkeeper. You can delegate the bookkeeping. I'm not saying you should prepare the tax return. You should not be preparing the tax return. But ultimately, you sign the tax return. You're responsible for the numbers. You need to make sure that you understand them, that you're using them to make decisions, and that you have the right team of professionals around you supporting you in that knowledge and understanding because you have to own this as the CEO.
Love, love, love. Okay. Let's go into some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm ready.
What is your guilty pleasure?
Trashy books, reading trashy
I
books.
love it. Coffee or
Just got back into that.
matcha? Coffee or matcha? Is that how you say it? Matcha?
Neither.
Neither?
Coke,
What do you drink?
Coke, Coke.
Oh my gosh. Me too. I am addicted to
Yes.
McDonald's Coke. Like, I think they put like crack.
They put something in it. They
Totally.
put
Oh my
something in
God.
it. Yes.
Okay, I'm loving that. Okay, your favorite way to distress.
That's been changing recently. I've really been enjoying the red light sauna therapy
Ooh.
stuff.
Oh, I love that. Okay, we're gonna have to talk about that. Beach vacation or
Okay.
city adventure?
Mountains.
Mountains.
I don't like sand with little kids and the city.
True.
My kids are 9, 7, 5, and 3,
Oh
and so
yeah.
I definitely feel like I'm in this phase of like if I'm getting away, I don't want something. Sand with kids, no good. Ocean makes me nervous. I would have picked the city, but now I'm just like, can we just go sit and be still and do
Right.
nothing?
Or
So
maybe
I'm
when
like a
kids get
mountains,
older, then we'll go back to city. What's your favorite thing
maybe.
to
I don't know.
What's your favorite thing to splurge on? Does this mean you don't splurge on yourself? Or you're thinking of what the favorite thing is?
I I I feel like I splurge on myself, but I don't really have anything. I would say like I feel like I splurge on myself like I don't want to call it self-care, but like upkeep. So like I really love I used to love having eyelashes. I don't have eyelashes anymore, but I used to like love getting my nails done, a massage, a facial, all of those things. Like if there's extra money, that's probably what I'm
Right.
doing with
The
it. There's
glam.
just not a lot of extra money these days.
Yeah. And what tells you most about a person?
I am such meeting them like actually meeting them and talking to them. I only need about 5 to 10 minutes, and my gut knows if they're a good person or not. I've been that way since high school, and I discovered that because I always used to think that there was something not wrong with me but like strange about me because I wouldn't like people, and my friends would be like, they're so wonderful, and now like 5, 10, 15, even 20 years later they're like, ooh. And I'm like, yeah, I knew that 20 years
Yeah.
ago. Like, so it's like this really incredible, like, kind of gut gift. And I'm not woo woo, but like, I can really read a person pretty quickly. And I'm 98% accurate most of the time.
I love that. Okay, I'm gonna run by the next person by you then. This was so much fun. I appreciate you, Kimberly, for coming on the show today. Can you tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, this was one of my favorite interviews, Michelle.
Thank you.
Yeah. So our website is terracpafirm.com. You can find all the details you need there. I really love having voice DMs on Instagram. So you can come follow along there. I'm not a big poster. I'm at Kimberly Tara CPA, but I would love, love, love for you to send me a voice note so that we can chat.
Oh, I love that. All right. Well, there you have it. Tax strategy for women entrepreneurs. Definitely go check out Kimberly. I will drop everything in the show notes. Until next time, keep leaning into those small shifts and stacking those 1% wins, and let's grow your business together.